Today we're joined by Catalin Kilofliski, the CEO of Canagold Resources. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be talking to you and update investors about quite an exciting journey ahead. Can't wait to share it with you.
Great. Well, tell us about your background, Catalin, and how you fit in the company.
Yeah, I actually have a business background, but I've been involved in the mining space for more than 20 years, most in senior roles. I'm no stranger actually to Canagold. I was the CEO of the company from 2014 to 2018 at a time when we actually made some really good progress. And I rejoined Canagold as the CEO of the company literally about a month and a bit ago at a time of significant transformation of the company. And, it is truly one of those unique stories that I'm again proud to be part of.
Excellent. So tell us about the team and how they're differentiated in the industry.
Yeah, what's very interesting about Canagold is really that, only the name remained. Leader in the last couple of months, we have a brand new board made of people with a very senior experience in the mining space, in the capital market space. So the entire board effectively has been changed. But more importantly, we are fortunate enough to have as our largest shareholder now, owning about 20% of the company, a private group that actually are mining. It's called Sun Valley Investments. It's a private group that has two producing gold mines in Colombia. They have very well-run operations. They generate a lot of cash. Combined with their technical expertise, we also have our own in-house technical expertise through our president, CEO, and VP exploration. But really, it's a unique situation. It's actually almost a privileged situation to be in as a junior company, because our largest shareholders effectively made a commitment to the company and to the market that they will be backstopping the funding required to bring our high-grade gold project in BC through bankable feasibility and production decision, right? So it's a unique situation because, as you know, junior markets, one of the main challenges, and I know that firsthand, it's raising capital, ability to continue to raise capital to move projects forward. Well, having somebody like Sun Valley now, who's our largest shareholder, providing that commitment, provides certainty to investors that project now has a clear path forward to a production decision. So that's really probably, after getting to know the Sun Valley Group and knowing intimately the project, having been the CEO of the company in the past for about 5 years, I truly believe this is a transformation time for the company, and I truly see a way forward to finally bring this project forward towards production decision.
Sounds like a nice ace in the hole to have a company like that.
Yeah, it puts us in a unique situation, and as I mentioned, we almost want to call ourselves privileged because not many juniors have that luxury of not having to care or worry about where the money is going to come to achieve the goals, right? So it's somewhat a privileged situation, but it also comes with a great deal of responsibility on our end because we have to perform and we have to deliver, and it's a really great synergy that's now created between our own team and the team of Sun Valley. Sun Valley has probably about 70 people, which are mostly technical people in their Colombian office, which we now have access to, which we basically have access to with no cost. How often junior companies basically, they need an expert on any field, they have to pay for a consultant, they have to wait. We can just pick up the phone and, we have those guys available to us continuously, right? And really what makes it also unique that as we move through now feasibility and permitting, we have a different mindset. We're going to build the mine. We have real-time feedback, technical feedback from this group that basically we're going to be working hand in hand with the engineers to deliver a product that can actually be a mine that's profitable and we can actually build.
So how would you compare, say, time to market because of all those resources compared to other companies?
So it's, the company has its own legacy, right? The company as Canagold, in previous names called Canagold Resources, has been around for 30 years. And, prior to this change being made, a lot of investors almost lost confidence in the ability to actually move this great project forward. So, we have a great deal of, catch up to do with trying to rebuild this trust with existing investors. We might have even lost some. But fundamentally, it's effectively a new story in the old shell, right? There's really nothing that stayed as it used to be except, the history of trading symbol being CCM, and you pull it up, it's a 30 years history. We have a new board, a new shareholder structure, a much better environment in which we can deliver our objectives. And as we put now the new Polaris project towards feasibility and the production decision, we want to leverage the expertise we have and the ability to tap into additional funding to eventually build up our portfolio. So, our objective is to grow the asset sizes. Like, we want to look at other opportunities in the sector right now. Again, I personally expect it's going to be a difficult 12 to 18 months in the sector, which may come to an advantage to us because having the ability with a group that generates cash, significant amounts of cash, to take advantage of those opportunities and bring synergies together, we should be able to create more shareholder value in Canagold, basically, right?
What challenges are you speaking of in the next 12 to 18? Inflation and gold prices get pulled down by the broader markets? Or
I think it's really a combination of all those factors. I think inflation is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. It's going to be there for some time. Gold, has performed relatively okay, but in my view, underperformed based on the environment we had, because we were faced with, and still faced with, high inflation, a war in Ukraine, the entire world is chaos from that perspective. Yet gold should have been a lot higher, right? So we had the perfect storm for the gold to be a lot higher, and it kind of did something different. So I do expect to be, a side move for the gold. We're going up a bit and down a bit and kind of continue the trend. The good news is that projects that are fundamentally good, even $1,600 gold, $1,700 gold is a good gold price, and that's our case for our project. So even though gold is not where I would like it to be, it's still in a good point where, for example, our project that has a very high grade of over 10 grams per ton can make it through and can be quite profitable. Where we have the general market that they need a lot higher metal prices. And more importantly, it's not necessarily the gold price inflation, it's the appetite of investors. Really, we've seen a lot of apathy, really, from investors for most gold and silver stocks. And it's evident not only in junior sector, but in majors too. I personally own in my portfolio a bunch of juniors and majors, and I've suffered across the board.
Yeah.
Right? So I think this may not be resolved overnight, and I foresee, a tough period, which basically would mean that companies can't secure funding, projects can't move forward as planned. And where we come in is, try to take advantage of those opportunities and beef up our portfolio.
Okay, interesting. Let's move into, you got some great strengths. I'd like to ask what the weaknesses are. You said one is perception. You're trying to change the perception from
Right.
previous days. What else would be a weakness, and how far along are you in changing the perception of?
Yeah, and the other perception and weakness that we are fundamentally changing is the fact that, along with the fact that company has moved, didn't really break through, right, in 30 years. It kind of moved sideways and did some and then stopped and did some and stopped. This same thing applies for the project. So people might have lost confidence that project can actually be built, right? So we do have a lot of, work to do to prove, because we're not going to convince anybody. We want to prove that the project is economic and it's going to be a very green project, will have very little environmental impact. We want to actually set up as a model for sustainability in British Columbia. We are very much active and working with the First Nations group. We're dealing with TRTFN group, who has been instrumental for us. We want to build that relationship more. And really, the bottom line, we want to create a lasting legacy with the First Nations. Our project currently, as it stands, it may have a 10-year mine life, maybe it's 20 if we find more ore. That's nothing when you talk to a lifetime legacy, right? So our objective really is to get the TRTFN to be our partners. We want to get their feedback early. We want to build this thing together. We want to do it in a way that the land that we are operating on is going to be left in a better shape than when we found it. And through our presence there for the next 10, 20 years, whatever it will be, we create lasting legacies that last generations. Through, bursaries, educations, and other things we could do, conservation areas, and other things that we could do that have a lasting legacy for the area.
Excellent. So we didn't kind of talk about the number of resources you have and potential future resources. So talk about, the mines.
So, our project is called New Polaris. It's up in the northern BC, close to the border with Alaska. It is probably one of the highest grade undeveloped gold projects in Canada today, averaging more than 10 grams per ton gold. So that's great because it allows for the project to be economic, and it allows the company to afford paying for things such as lack of power, lack of proper infrastructure, which that could be dealt with, but it means additional costs, right? So we'll be power generating on site. There's going to be seasonal access through barging and whatnot, which add to your cost. The good news is that we have enough grade to afford that, right? So, and as a result of that, our objective is to have a project that produces about 100,000 ounces a year for 10 years to start with, based on the existing resource, which basically, due to the grade, the throughput of the project is fairly small. We are talking about 1,000 ton a day underground operation. So, our real footprint and disturbance really will be limited. So it will be a great project from that perspective. We're moving completely away from any wet tailings facility. So everything will be dry stack. We don't want any risk whatsoever to the environment. The biggest thing that we're going to take very serious is water quality, and we'll make sure that's properly dealt with. We're very fortunate that the type of ore we have does not cause acid drainage issues due to the material composition, so that's not an issue we have. And we'll be working hand in hand with the First Nations to protect the environment where we operate. That's basically it. So we are quite excited about the journey ahead, and to the extent we can, we'll be looking at renewable power sources. Even though they may not provide 100% of our needs, we want to bring them on board, such as run-of-river, hydro, small hydro, and possible wind. So, all those things we take very serious, and they'll be an integral part of our strategy going forward.
Excellent. So what other technologies do you think you're kind of cutting edge? I mean, if you're using renewables, that'd be great. What else in terms of technologies?
Look, we will be using what's called biooxidation, and really the key term for that is the ability to produce a physical doré bar on site. And why is that important is that we eliminate the need to transport offsite a significant volume of concentrate, right? And most of, there's different types of mines that produce either doré or concentrate, which we have an option to as well to produce concentrate, but we don't want to have to move a big volume of concentrate through a sensitive area, more or less, right? So the fact that we're going to be implementing biooxidation, which allows them for the process to actually produce a physical doré bar, it's great. This is not a new technology per se. There is many projects in the world that are using that successfully, but it is pretty much new in the it's in the comparison with other old technologies around, right? And to make that better, even we're using the best people that are basically have invented this, and it's Osinco that's basically built a biooxidation plant recently in China. They have the ability to do that. And Autotech, which actually has the patent on the technology.
Interesting. So you're going to create 1 kilogram bars right there, 10 kilogram
bars? Right there. So the end product will be a bar that's going to be flown with a helicopter, and then will be sent to refinery, right? Because you won't be able to create a pure bullion that you see in the store. You create a bar that has like 95% gold, whatever, right? So that's good enough, and then you send that to a refinery. The other interesting thing about Sun Valley is that they actually own their own refinery in India. So they are fully integrated, basically, right? So we are not sending it to a third party, which then they get their cut. We are able to go from ore to physical gold all within our company.
So your costs are lower.
It costs are lower and margins are higher, right? Because every time there is a middleman, there is a fee involved, and there is a profit to be made, right? So the fact that we are able to move from rock to physical gold and to actual bullion within our group, that's great. That's that brings all the revenue inside the group.
Excellent. So let's get into the financials, kind of the debt. How much money's in the bank and runway left and things like that.
So again, this is where I call ourselves privileged, because Sun Valley has effectively committed funding to get us through a production decision, which means completion of feasibility, permitting. And by the way, that feasibility study will begin in a matter of weeks, and stay tuned for announcements on that. And the actual permitting will be filed probably Q1 of next year. So that's when the actual clock starts. And then from there, it's roughly 1.5 years to complete feasibility, and call it up to 3 years for the permitting to complete. So during this time frame, Sun Valley publicly committed funding for the company. So it doesn't really matter much what's our current cash balance. We are at about $2 million right now. They have provided that commitment, and at that point, project will be bank financed or project financed, and probably somebody will probably investing even more. But it's a great position to be in, to not have to rely on the markets, what the markets are doing, to be able to deliver objectives, right? So that being the case, we're still open to entertain additional investments from groups that are sharing a similar strategy like we do, patient enough and willing to wait 3 years, 4 years to build a mine, and there is plenty of groups like that. So for now, that's really our planning for the financing.
Okay. You talked about Sun Valley, and they were about a 20% shareholder. Talk about the other shareholders and institutions.
Yeah, we have a large investment fund from London, Raffer, who owns roughly about 5% of the company. There's an additional investment fund from Australia, actually, who has a good position in the company. We have a high net worth investor from Israel who owns, again, a good chunk of the shares. And, really, to a large extent, as the company now moves forward with Sun Valley's involvement and things we're doing, we're going to be careful on who we bring in as a shareholder, right? Because one of the things that junior companies do, and we've done it before, we get, for example, access to easy flow-through money, which is great because you get it fairly easy, you can spend in the ground, you get great pricing, but you're going to get all that stock back. Right, so that's really a big problem, a reality really for junior mining companies, where you're gonna get it all back in the market. So you have some good news next season, and then the flow through needs to sell because that's their time horizon, and off you go. So we'll be very careful on trying to select the investor base as we move forward, to ensure that we have a solid shareholder base as the company progresses.
What percentage is left for what percent is retail investors?
Retail investors is a very large part of it. It's more than 50%.
Okay.
And arguably with the increase in participation of somebody, that will become lower. We do have a good shareholder base. I would say at least 25 to 30% of the shares are held by US investors, and those would be retail investors. For some large part, they've been actually very patient. They've been long-time investors, so they've been actually very supportive of the change that happened through the Proxified incumbent. Like Proxified received double the votes than the old slate, and this is not necessarily due to Sun Valley. It's due to the fact that the investors just got tired and fed up and said, "Look, we want change. We waited way too long." We must have lost some probably in that process, but I know for a fact we still have long-time shareholders that are happy to see this happening, and they are supportive to give it a chance to break.
Yeah, it sounds like you're at a point where it's only up. You've shaken out the people that were a little fair weather, and
it's hard to say that, but definitely looks logically like that, because we have this backstop commitment that, funding will be provided so we achieve the objectives, right? That's great.
So let's talk about some of the catalysts to drive the stock. Yeah. What should people that are looking at your company keep an eye out for in the next few years?
There's going to be quite a few, actually. We do have an upcoming announcement on commencement of feasibility study, which is a big milestone. This project has been waiting 30 years for that announcement, so That's a big one. Together with that, we're going to have an announcement probably later next year with commencement of actual permitting process. We have been working on the permitting for the last 2 years, so we are actually ready to file effectively. Together with the commencement of feasibility study, there's going to be an updated resource report that's going to be put forward. There is more than 30,000 meters of core drilled that have not been included in an updated resource report, right? The target is 1 million ounces of measured indicated over 10 grams. So we will be announcing that resource report as soon as practically possible, as now it's part of the feasibility study efforts, right? So that's another catalyst. We are drilling as we speak. And we will continue drilling effectively with a short break over Christmas and then back drilling. And you will see us keep drilling possibly until the completion of the permitting process, as long as we can keep adding value to the resource, right? So there's going to be, again, a constant news flow from the drill results. And then as the process progresses with the feasibility and permitting, we would make announcements periodically on progress, where we are, so people know things are getting closer to feasibility study decision and where the process is with the permitting. And then as we engage now more realistically with the First Nation group, there's hopefully going to be announcements regarding our partnership with them and things we plan to do together and the level of support we're looking to get from them. And there's going to be a news flow coming from that as well. So plenty of news for sure.
Excellent. What would be a good way for investors to keep track of your newsletters or?
Yeah, I think there's many ways. You could just mark your stock, add it to your portfolio, watch the trading. You can go to our website, subscribe to our newsletters, and you'll get all our news. And at any time, reach out to us. I'm available. We have a VP Corporate Development and Investor Relations, Knox Anderson. He is always available. You want to talk to me? I'm available. I'll talk to anybody.
Excellent.
Actually enjoy that. I love to talk directly with investors. Even if you have something bad to say, I love to talk to you.
Feedback's always good.
Happy to chat.
So when do you think gold's going to have its day finally?
I hope I would know the answer. I think, in the way I look at it personally, I actually have a 5-year-old daughter, and I did start buying bullion more when she was born, and my objective is to buy every year. And when she's 18, I'll turn it to her and say, look, this is
paying for your college.
Yeah, hopefully, or more. So I truly believe it will be worth a lot more in 18 years, or the next actually 13, because 35, than it's worth today. And that's a fact, and that's undisputed. They will go back 2,000 years. The buying power of 1 gram of gold is the same when you compare to a piece of bread, a liter of milk, and why not? It never lost buying power, even though we had so much inflation. But if you convert back to gold, the essential necessities that we use every day, you would be buying the same amount of quantity with the same of gold with the same amount of.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah, so that is a fact, and nobody can dispute that it's been going for 2,000 years. So that's how I look at gold, and it's really it's money. That's what it is. It's money.
Yes, I agree. So, Catalin, what other last words would you like to include for individuals and maybe last-minute strategies?
Yeah, I would really encourage people that have been long-time investors in Canagold to, if they're willing, to give us one more chance, because it's completely brand new, the story, fundamentally brand new. And for those that don't know about Canagold, have a look, because we're starting really from the ground up. And I was fortunate enough in my career to be involved in some big successes. Just before this, I was part of a company called Tudor Gold, and it was me and the geologist who kind of moved the company from 25 cents to about $4 in a year, so people did very well with that. And I've been involved in a few more successes like that. I truly believe Canagold has a clear chance of being a good rate of return. I can't tell you how much. I would love to. But all I can tell you for a fact is we're starting from the ground. And this is a solid way forward. So have a look.
Great.
Do your due diligence, and that's about it.
You sound well positioned, so I look forward to keeping an eye on you guys, and our
Absolutely.
readers do too. So thank you for your time, Catalin.
Thank you. Great being here.